you ingrain them so much into people that if they see someone going against that value, they're like, hey, that's not what we do.
I
right?
love
Like,
that.
so they all like, that's where talk about managing through the culture.
That's
it's
so
like
good.
every single meeting that we started, like in all of my like schedule, it was always card check, mission statement, vision statement, and then or we do mission statement and values. And it's like, we need to talk about it first, because that's how we need to start the meeting off, is talking about why we're even here.
Yeah.
How we even operate as a company.
What's up, everybody? Sam Taggart here with the D2D Podcast, and I have a awesome guest today. And if you haven't got your ticket to D2D or you haven't pre-ordered the book, Eat What You Kill, please go do so. Also, jump onto our Facebook tribe and join our community. Lots of cool stuff happening. So if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, hit subscribe. Maybe share this with a friend. We have over 450 amazing episodes. If you rewind back to 2017, us sitting in a random basement, those are all real good all the way to today. And I've interviewed some phenomenal guests. So I'm bringing on the one today who is Jason Haugen, who has successfully exited out of RV dealerships, has built many businesses, owns accounting company, but his main focus right now is now helping companies improve their culture through what's called Culture Camp. And so I thought it'd be really interesting bringing him on and just being like, hey, how do you improve a culture, right? Like you've been through the downturn, you were through the upswing of COVID.
Yep.
For you, that was a benefit. Everybody's buying RVs. You went through the downside, like you've built different businesses. So like, I'm excited to kind of jam on that theory because I love culture. I think it's its own thing, and
For sure.
there's a lot we can jam on that. So welcome to the show.
No, thank you so much for having me on the show. This is awesome. This studio is beautiful, man. So kudos to you. It's a dream come true to have a place like this. And I love culture. It's been something instilled in me since I was a young kid. My dad was actually a motivational speaker.
Oh, wow.
And led, kind of millions of people with what he did, and spoke all over the world and had business in 27 countries 27 countries, and did some really cool stuff. So I got to see how, culture and, dealing with people and all that with business, really translated into helping companies scale and grow. And when we bought the RV dealership, we kind of put the little sauce on it, and we were able to scale to over 100 million a year in revenue, and and exit those stores. So it's been pretty fun.
That's exciting. So what's it like? First off, like, how'd you come into buying a business? I think there's like a lot of people out there that don't like think that way. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not like they're just like, oh, I'm going to go find a company and be an RV dealers now. You know what I mean? Like how did that come about?
Yeah. So I was when I was 18, I started a network marketing company, or like in a network marketing company. Loved the industry, did really well, was the top earner in the company. And the company actually sold. And so I lost my income. And I actually started going and sweeping floors for a buddy in his construction company. And it was tough because going from like the top, multiple six-figure, very, very, on stages, speaking all over the place, to now I'm literally sweeping his floors. But my brain never stopped thinking. So I'm like, hey, like you could do this, you can do that. And like I'm always wanting to like scale. And like, it's probably a byproduct of my dad and my mom and all their businesses that they owned. And, so I'm like helping them. Right. And so then I was able to help him scale that company. And then my dad, we were sitting on the beach in Mexico, and he was like, hey, I got approached by some guys that he had bought an RV from at a previous dealership. They had all left and went and started a store in Salt Lake, and they were about to lose it. And so my dad was like, I don't really want to do this, but is it something you want to do? And, you're kind of doing your thing, grinding it out. Let's do it together. And I'm like, okay, like I never wanted to work for my dad.
Yeah.
I always wanted to work with him. And so I tried to do like everything outside of him, because I was hated like the stigma of being, like you have everything because of your dad, right? And like we lived a great childhood, a great life. Like my mom and dad had an airplane and all this stuff, but like they flew on it. We never did. Like we didn't. They always said like, what did you do to earn a seat on the plane?
Wow.
And we're like, I don't know. So we flew commercial. They would be in the big suites at the Grand Wailea in Maui. We'd be in a normal room. Like everything, like I always joke, but like they were pretty hard on us, right? Like they never bought us a car, never bought our gas, never bought insurance, never did anything.
We have very similar childhoods.
Yeah. So I always I didn't want to be successful in spite, but I wanted to be like my own person, and then kind of like prove to my dad that like, hey, like I didn't need you, but like, I appreciate you teaching me all the lessons you did, right? Like,
same story,
yeah,
man.
so,
I get this.
because I mean, I owe them a lot, right? Like
my
dad taught me a lot, and, you know, I've got to rub shoulders with some very, you know, prominent people and learn everything from them.
Well, I think it's who you are today. Like, and I everybody's like, Sam, like, how'd you get so good? I'm like, my parents had the wherewithal to do what your parents did to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't think parents get enough credit for, like, you know, the easier thing would have been fly with us.
Right.
The easier thing would have been, here's a car.
Right.
I can't afford it. So it's hard for me to say no,
Right.
knowing I can't afford it, knowing, you know, I can't afford it.
Right.
So now it's like this conundrum of like, I'm just doing this to teach you a lesson. Like,
Right.
you know, which is sad, you know what I mean? Versus
Yeah.
like most people that grow up in rags to riches, it's like they really can't. It's like, we are in the hood. We can't afford that. Where it's like, we can. Now I have to consciously teach you that you didn't do anything to deserve this.
Right. Yeah. No, it's so true. And like, I gave them a lot of credit. I mean, they were gone a lot, probably 300 days a year, for my whole life pretty much. And so it was almost like we had mom and dad there, but it was almost more weird for them to be home than gone. And so we really learned how to be independent. And I say we, because I have a twin brother, luckily, because I don't know what I'd do without him, because we pretty much just did our own stuff every day. And, you know, I have an older brother and older sister, so we're kind of the babies of the family, but they taught us a lot. And so, you know, bringing that to the dealerships and like being able to have that success in the network marketing, and then bringing what I really truly believe in culture into the RV dealerships, and being able to learn it and scale it. Now, if I would have known how hard the RV industry was, I would have never touched it, never got it. It is the most complicated. In 2018, Harvard Business Review wrote an article that the RV dealership specifically was the hardest business in America to run. And
Wow.
I wish I would have read that article, because it's complicated. Like if I was to come to you and say, hey, we're going to open up a business that we are always going to be behind on cash flow, you'd be like, why would we ever do that? Right? It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Like if I sold a trailer for, you know, $100,000 and I made 20 grand, everybody'd be like, oh, that's a lot of money. That's awesome. Well, one, to the transaction, there's a 50 different state paperwork and regulations that I have to pay attention to. But two, what if I took in a $60,000 trade that I have to pay off? And I'm upside down 40 grand on that one transaction. So you're always playing catch up. And like, if you sold that trade for, you know, a $10,000 profit, but you took in another trade, and, you know, like you're always playing catch up. And so it's a very complex business. But I think through like, I guess being who I am and like understanding, like taking a step back and trying to go find the right answers instead of prove that I had all the right answers, we went and assembled a dream team. And a lot of it came from that original store, thank God, because that was the easiest, you know, everybody was right there. But we took that store that had never made money, was always struggling, and then really just changed it, you know, tweaked a few things and really just invested in the people and helped train them, give them the tools necessary, and really feed into them. And then the byproduct was they worked way harder, they worked way longer, they did the things they were supposed to do. And we ended up doing really, really well with that store. And then we grew to 9 locations, and, you know, we 10x the revenue and everything. We still had never, in pretty much every business we bought, we always made our money back in the first year, which is kind of unheard of. But a lot of it was just how we did things culturally. And then a lot of it's processes, but a lot of it was culturally too.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. You got obsessed with accounting because obviously you had a ton of money lost there.
Yep.
But you got your start in network marketing. So I have a book that I'm giving you called Eat What You Kill, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these people listening to this, they do door to door, and they have this like, you know, carnivore like mindset. And I think,
right,
you know, I question like the guy that was running the RV store before. Do you think you had more of an herbivore mindset of like, I hope people come in and I hope this works? Versus, did you kind of take this network marketing energy that you had and your dad and brought it to the store to shift the culture to be a little bit more carnivorous? Like, tell us about that.
Absolutely. Like my mom always used to say it, pretty much that carnivore mindset, like if it is to be, it's up to me.
Yeah.
All right. Like if you want something done, you have to go out and do it. And my brain, like I'm Mr. Revenue. Like I'm going to get creative on how to get people to the door. I'm going to create different marketing things. Like I'm going to get, like I got hyper obsessed to bring people in the door. I was never like the thrill of the deal on like selling the RV. Like, okay, cool. That's a byproduct. But like, I want to get people through that door. Yes. I want to sell to people. Like, to me, like that's...
Because that's the carnivore.
Exactly.
Like the herbivore is the dude that's like, oh, great. Somebody showed up to the car lot.
Right.
Like, and this is the difference. Because here's the funny thing. Like, I obviously spoke at Andy's thing, and we're buddies, and got his start in the car sales. And I was like, well, I got my start in door to door. Like, we start the transaction, whether you're a setter for solar or your home improvement, like whatever the thing is, network marketing, like you're initiating from nothing, meaning you've created, and that's the difference between, you know, a carnivorous, let's say RV sales guy might be the turkey or like the vulture or the hyena, where you're the lion. Right. Does that make sense? The lion's going to be like, they proactively initiated the kill, and then the hyena got to eat, and then the vulture came and ate too. Right. They're all carnivore-like type people, but you're the lion. You got people in the door, therefore you got the greatest value out of all this.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what I don't know, when I go to, like, when we were buying stores, I would sit there and ask them, you know, what they do for marketing and how they get people in the door and the sales process and everything. And they would just sit there and be like start laughing and be like, yeah, they think they're getting 3 times earnings, but what I can do on this, it's like a half a time's earnings, right? But that's what I would get hyper obsessed on, is how to get people in the door. Cause I mean, that's what counts. Like, I always say, like, the guy that's walking in, like, hey, how did you hear about us? Oh, we're just driving by. You know, okay, my sign worked. But it's like, how can I get hyper focused and take the sniper approach on my marketing, on my different tactics, on pricing, on the website and different things to get those people in the door, different events, and doing, like, spreading the new, you know, the word around the brand. Like, that's what I got hyper obsessed on, and it worked. And that's why, like, you know, exiting and then people finding out that I'm exited, and, you know, now they're like wanting me to join their team because they know that, like, that's how what I love to do is figure out, like, if you want to raise your revenue, let me come in, let me figure, I will help raise the revenue, because like I know, like, I feel like I have a really good understanding on how to get people in the door. And like, sales is, and I'm not going to say sales is easy, but like getting them in the door is hard.
And people downplay that. Like, it's like, oh, I'm the best sales guy. I'm like, yeah, but you don't work. You don't, like, as long as somebody puts something on your calendar, you're great. Right. It's like, we had to do all the hard shit. Right. You just had to show up when we told you to show up.
Well, that's why we got lazy in COVID, right? People just, literally, we were order takers. Taking. Our whole industry was just order takers. And I mean, I'd sell 100 trailers in a month off of one of our lots, and we would have maybe 10 in stock. And that's how fast in and out that they would come, you know, go. And, you know, I remember hearing sales guys answering the phone, and they would, you know, be talking to a customer, and they'd be like, hey, like, if you don't buy it, then I bet I'll sell it in 20 minutes, you know, or the next phone call, which is true. But what happened when the market got soft and we had to really go back and sell, everybody forgot how to sell. Yeah. And it's, or I guess not even sell, to get people in the door and really try. Cause like, everybody lowered their marketing dollars. Everybody got soft. Everybody took vacation. You know, everybody's like, hey, like, you know, money's coming in like the freaking Nile River. We're just gonna relax. And, you know, we did that a little bit, but then when things started to turn a little bit, I was like, okay, we got to hammer down and get us hard, you know, like refine everything that we're doing. And, you know, part of it was, okay, we're a little bit too wide, sell some stores in Missouri. Let's focus, like, hyper focus, and sell the stores in Oregon and hyper focus on Utah. And so, you know, you kind of scaled up and scaled back down, but it was all part of the process to be able to hyper focus and really do what we were trying to accomplish.
That's crazy. Yeah. So I find a lot in sales cultures, which obviously you've been part of for a long time now, and led big ones nationwide. And, you know, I read this, like, the thing that you said at the beginning, you're like, we built these people. And I think that's like one of the hardest parts of any kind of culture shift, is like, how much money and time and resource do you invest in these people? So like, I had a guy come into me, I'm not gonna say names, yesterday. He started about 3 weeks ago, and he just sent me this text, and I'm not the best at this. I probably have a very different skill set than you. And he says, came in and he's like, dude, I can't pay my electric bill. I can't pay my rent. Like, he's like, they shut off my gas yesterday. Wow. And I know I'm gonna get that bonus. I'm $800 away. Can you pay it this Friday instead of in 2 weeks? Right. It's like $1,000 bonus. Right. And, you know, I was like, sure, let's make it happen. I was like, and he sends me this gratitude post or text this morning, right? And he's just awesome. Like, I reflected, like, he's like, I've been through dust and ashes. Like, he's, you know, my career, my mindset, my finances, like my everything. And he's like, to have somebody do that. And so I can he's like, and providing a Christmas for my daughter and be able to pay my December rent and keep the heat and lights on. Like, right. But I think it's like, for how many times you get that. And then in 2 weeks, he's just like, why aren't you working? You know what I mean? Like all I replied back is like, dude, all I care is you give it your very best.
Right.
Like that's what I need.
Right.
But it's like, man, dealing with salespeople, dealing with people, like you lose patience a lot of times.
Right.
You're just like, what the hell, dude? Like,
absolutely. And it is like with salespeople, it's tough, right?
Yeah, it's hard.
But it's all about the standard, I guess. The culture is always from the top down. I truly believe that everything starts from the top, no matter what, in any organization. Like we've gone into consultant companies, and I couldn't get the CEO or the owner to buy into what we're trying to accomplish. They loved what we were doing, but they just wanted it for everybody else. And I'm like, well, that, you're going to be my biggest blocker. And if you own the company or the CEO,
it starts with you.
Yeah, I can't really, I'm not gonna be able to be successful. And so I don't even want to take your money because you can just be pissed at me, right? And so it's all about just like I was in a meeting the other day, and a guy was like, we had a company and we brought in another, an outside guy to run the company, and he just got too military-like and this and that. And it was just bad culture. And I'm like, well, okay, that might be like, that didn't work for you, but I know of a buddy back east that they are like that. Like he, 4 a.m., they're at the gym, they're very like regimented, and he is the number 1 store in the world for what he does. And so I'm like, everything just kind of starts from the top and like it's created in the culture. So if that's a stand, like if you have a standard where, hey, this is what we don't do, then have that standard and don't do it. But then like a lot of people think culture is just a feeling. Like culture is that process that's so clearly defined that it creates the culture, right?
Yes.
Kind of like Chick-fil-A. Like if you go to Chick-fil-A and they say my pleasure, which they all do, right? Like that's not just a feeling they feel to say my pleasure. It is probably written down somewhere that they have to say my pleasure. And so when I used to go to companies and say, oh, culture's a feeling, and you just got to make people feel appreciated and this and that and the other. Well, that was cool, but it's like, how do we do that?
Yeah.
Right. Like, and it all starts from the top. So like, how do you want to do that? So like, you taking care of this guy, like, that's awesome. I've done the same thing multiple times, but then as it starts to get, some people abuse that, and I've had to like clearly, hey, like we're going to draw a line in the sand. Like clearly you're having other, and usually it's me having a conversation with them. Like clearly you're having other issues outside of work. Let's talk about those. Like, do you need help with financial consult? Like, what are your expenses? Like, let's break it down. Like, I will sit here and help you break it down.
Yeah, a lot of times it's not even an income problem. It's just you have a spending problem.
Right.
It's like, why are you coming to me to fix your spending problem?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I always say like, hey, I'm not a bank. I try to have that standard, and like we always wrote it down for legal purposes that we wouldn't do advanced stuff like that. But like if people needed something, especially if they were a really good employee or whatever, I would really make sure that we take care of them. Because at the end of the day, people do just want to feel appreciated, right? I was with a buddy last night. We were actually filming a podcast, and he was talking about their tech company, and they were just rolling. They had about 80 employees. They couldn't lose. Like they were just doing really, really well here in Silicon Slopes. And the owner started to not even care about it, like just started to basically detract himself out of everything. And he would go say some stuff that didn't really match the field or, his guys. And he started losing employees. And the company essentially went bankrupt.
Wow.
And so it all starts with, again, that top, but it's clearly defining what that culture is. And at the end of the day, people just wanted to feel appreciated. He literally was like in executive meetings saying like, hey, we just are doing this because we want, we want the field to be a certain way, but we're really not going to take care of them. And then he wouldn't take care of them. And then they were like, well, it's a hyper competitive world right now in hiring. Yeah. I'm just going to go somewhere where I do feel appreciated. And when I talk about culture, I'm not talking about and everybody gets a trophy. Like we're just sitting here holding hands all day long. It's a high performance standard that you have to hold. But oftentimes with those high performers, they know they're high performers. So if we don't take care of them, make them feel appreciated more than money, because if you make everything about money, they're just going to bounce from company to company chasing money, right? But if you make it about more than money and that relationship and who they are as a person and help them feel seen and appreciated, they'll be loyal and they'll stay forever.
Love that.
Yeah.
So what's your difference between hiring the A player and going after that guy that's like not appreciated some other place, but he's a top performer and poaching, versus going after, or developing kind of from the ground up? Like, where's your experience in that?
I think you need both, right? Cool. Like I'm always recruiting is the best of the best, right? Like I think of business as sports.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's been very few championship teams that have drafted their way to a championship, right?
Yeah.
It's mostly they're trading and they're going and quote unquote recruiting those people and then surrounding them with really high draft picks and that leadership, because like teams need
like
leadership.
You need a LeBron James.
Yeah,
you need
you build it around
Tom Brady,
and then you move it forward, right? And so, like I think that you need to go recruit those people and help them feel appreciated and, create a culture that they want to come to you. But then I also 100% feel like you need to be able to, like, are really, really good at developing those people. And, in the corporate world, that's done through a lot of like internships and things like that, which is new to me because in dealerships, we didn't really do interns. But, being like, we always call it the MIT program, management and training. And so if you wanted to join the MIT program, you had to do certain things to be able to be a manager. Manager just wasn't off of tenure, even if you're really good, because oftentimes my top salespeople would be the worst manager.
Yes, all
because
the time.
Either like salespeople don't love paperwork.
No, this is me. Like I tell people, I'm not a great manager. Manager is not in my like personality profile. Like
Right.
if you take any of the culture code or the wealth dynamic or any of those things,
Right.
it's trainer is,
Right.
but not manager. Those are two different things.
Right. No, absolutely. And so that's what we set that standard from the beginning. And, when we create that culture, that management and training, because I want people to be chasing a dream. Like now that probably comes back from my network marketing days, right? Is where I really want them to be able to chase something more than themselves or chase a dream or like figure out why they're there. And so, if they want to grow with the company, cool. If they don't, then hey, okay. Like, I'm not here to tell you how you have to live your life. If you're telling me that you want to be in this position and make this much money pretty much for the rest of your life because you're comfortable, then we're going to help you become the best of that. And you're just going to own that. But if you want to be, hey, you're a new sales guy. Hey, I want to be the sales manager. Hey, we're going to help you go through that process. And we're going to teach and train you how to do that. It might be not at this store, but we're growing. So it might be in another store. Are you willing and able to move and different things like that? It's having those clear communication lines and setting that standard of what they want to do right from the beginning.
Yeah. So what happens when, there's always there's like culture can have a cancer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and a lot of times it's like an unseen cancer. It's like, oh, damn, you're already in stage 4. Like,
right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
like you're just like, oh shit, like this has been going on for how long?
Right.
And obviously you've had the eyes into a lot of different businesses as a coach. And how do you get the confidence to like, I had to fire 2 of my sales guys, like my only 2. Like I had to fire them both because of a cultural cancer about a year ago.
Really?
But it cost me 8 months of hell not having a sales system.
Right.
Like it was like hiring new dudes off the streets and being like, I promise you can make money in this. And there's no one else to follow, no management, no, you know what I mean? And
Right.
I'm just like, oh, this is hard. And I finally, if you were to go to my sales team today, it's like, we're freaking awesome right now.
Right.
Like we're crushing. And I'm like, oh, it took me 8 months of hell though.
Right.
To the owner and the leader that's like, 1, not willing to, 2, struggling because they know the trade-off of like, they might have to go into that dark 8 months rebuilding or something. What do you say to that guy?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely always play the long game, and pain. I always say pain is temporary. Championships last forever. And so, like, I won state championships in high school, and I don't remember the hell I went through to get there, but I remember what the feeling was raising the trophy. And sometimes I look at my little championship ring and be like, oh, that was cool, but I don't remember the pain. Right? Our bodies. It's kind of like women in childbirth, like they don't remember, so they have another baby, right? That's crazy to me, but having, being able to do that, like that takes leadership, right? Like my dad always jokes around. He always says like, "Hey, it takes big balls to make big calls."
I wish I would have done it way sooner. It's just scary, dude. Like,
and I think that that's what we get a lot of our head is it's going to be much worse than we think. Our bodies, like spiritually and like our DNA, our bodies go to worst case scenario all the time.
Yeah.
And so we have to have that mindset and that control that's like, it's going to be okay. Right. I'm a firm believer in a system-based business where the successes and the failures of the business do not ever rise and fall on one person or ever a department or anything like that. So I'm always trying to cross-train, do things where if someone falls, someone gets sick, we have to let someone go. It's easy to replace and move the organization forward because I don't want to step back and do different things like that. But I 100% feel like if you have that cancer, cut the cancer quick. Like no one is going to roll up to the hospital and go to the receptionist and be like, hey, like, I just want one cancer cell to inject in my body, right? Like, why would we do this? So why do we keep that in our businesses? Because it spreads a lot faster than we think. And like you said, it's a silent killer. But if we are treating, I get this question for a lot of high performers.
Yeah.
And so what if I have a really high performer that's causing a lot of problems? Well, if you have 10 people and that one high performer is basically suppressing the other 9, you're going to get, if you let that one person go, it's going to maybe cost you what you think. But if those other 9 are feeling suppressed because of how they're being treated by that one, you're going to get actually way more than you were having with 10.
Yeah, they're going to be like, oh, we don't have to put up with Tom anymore.
Right.
I get more leads now because he was kind of hogging that, or whatever the thing is.
Whatever it is. Yeah. Because again, a lot of people, like, they might not say anything because they're scared or different thing. And, a lot of those, high performers that are like that, they might actually be not doing as much work as you think they are because they're just making a lot of noise. And so, but it takes a leader to get down to those levels to understand what's going on. Like with me and having 9 stores, I travel to the stores a lot and meet with the front lines, the work people that are there, to ask them questions, because I only know what I know and I don't know what I don't know. And I always tell them in our calls, like, if you don't tell me the truth, shame on you, because nothing's going to change if you don't tell me the truth. I'm not here to prove anything. We're just trying to win. I don't care how we get there. We just need to win. And so now this isn't going to be a complaint fest. This isn't going to be different things like that, because you also have that of like someone complains about every little thing. And it's like, look, be a man, let's, like, or a woman, whatever. Let's get you in a room. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk it out. Let's move on with this. And so, but with high performers, sometimes they can be like your worst enemy because they know it.
They know it.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm wanted.
Yeah.
It's like the hot chick. You're like,
yeah.
They're hard to date. You
right.
know what I mean?
Exactly.
You're just like,
exactly.
You're like, wow, you're wanted by everybody. So you have this like weird entitlement.
Yeah. And trust me, it's taking up too much space in your brain because at the end of the day,
Yeah.
Right? Like, that this is going on, because I'm sure people have said something, and then you start getting into different HR laws and rules and things like that. But like, if you're thinking about all the time, or it's
costing you your peace.
It's costing.
Yeah. Like
and that's worth more than I would say almost anything. Because as a leader or owner, like we need peace, right? Like we're always in constant chaos. And if that is taking up brain power, computing every single day, that you're going to wake up and be like, I wonder what this person's going to do today. Or I wonder who's going to complain about them today. Just go in a different direction.
I had a huge aha around that just recently too. And, I'm not going to say names, but, I had an employee that, like, we had created an arrangement, went down this path thinking, oh, this is going to be great. And for like the last probably month or so, I'm like, this is like, there's something off here. Like, I don't know what the freak is off, but it's like, it's now running through my head on it. Like, it doesn't stop running through my head. Right. And I was like, oh, that's why, because the current construct in which we're set up, if I have to go do XXX and then he gets all this upside, but I'm the one having to play the hunter and the carnivore, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. There's an out of alignment. So I sat him down and I said, we're out of alignment on this. And he's like, but you agreed to this like 4 months ago. And I said, yes, I know, but I'm changing it.
Right.
And I said, because it's costing me, and I know that there's not alignment in it with our entire team. It's great for you, but it's not good for everybody else.
Right.
And it was a hard conversation. And he looked at me and he was like, so you admit you're changing it? Because he's having like this frustration around, like, you're changing how I'm structured. Right. And I said, yeah. And it was like a really hard, I almost wanted to like defend myself. And it was hard because I was like, yeah, I am. It sucks. I wish I wouldn't have set it up that way. You know what I mean? I had to own that as a leader, which is humbling. And he appreciated the validation. So he didn't get defensive, but he was just like, okay, so you're admitting you're changing it. I said, yeah. And I just was like, it was a scary conversation to have.
Right.
And I have to live with the consequences of that conversation wherever they go.
Right.
But it felt such a weight lifted off of my like shoulders, knowing that I'm like, I vocalized, this is out of alignment. It's cost me a month of weird little trying to figure it out. Right. Pinpoint the misalignment on the structure. And I said, I'm willing to do something about it. Right. So you've got now a new option. It's a great option. Right. And I'm like, take it or leave it.
Yeah. And a lot of times we probably build that conversation up in our head that it's going to be way worse than it is when we just hit it head on.
Yeah.
And because so like when I sit someone down, like we never did write-ups. I always did cultural realignment meetings. And so like I had all my values on my card, and I had, them all written down, and then our mission statement on the back. And so I called them culture cards. And so we all have our culture cards in our wallet. I probably got one still in my wallet right now. And so we'd sit them down, and, we'd have that cultural realignment. And I'd say, hey, because the biggest thing when you sit someone down, they are defensive no matter what, or they're scared of what's going on. Like, why are you meeting with me? What's going on? And if you sit them down and just say, hey, I just want to let you know the point of this whole entire meeting is to get in alignment. We're going to have a little cultural alignment. We're going to fill out this sheet. And at the end of it, we're just going to make sure we're on the same page. Are you okay with that? Is that fair? It's sales, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. So then the whole time that you're talking to, because for the first 10 minutes or 5 minutes of that conversation, they're not listening to you. They're running in their brain of saying, what am I going to tell my wife if I get fired? What's going to happen? What's going on? And so they don't hear you. But if you calm it down at the beginning, it's almost like that probably opening, and I've never done door to door, but it's like that initial conversation, lower the energy, like let's have that conversation. So then, okay, we're gonna have a cultural realignment meeting. I literally had a form that I'd fill out, and I'd say, this is the value that that you violated or you need to work on. One of them is trust. Okay, I heard you did the, X, Y, and Z, either outward to a customer, inward to one of us, employee. And these are the three things, what do you think you can do to gain the trust back with so-and-so? And then let them write down their three things, and then let's work on them. And if it's calling the customer, let's do it right now. And then if it's calling the person, let's do it right now. So let's take care of it right now. And then in a week, we'll have another little chit chat, 5 minute, 10 minute, to make sure that we're all aligned, and we'll keep moving on, and this won't be a problem. Now, if it is a problem, like that's why I like that system, because if you keep having to have these cultural realignment meetings, they know they're probably not going to be last at the company. And it wasn't me that let them go. It was the culture. They signed up. They adhered to my values. They adhered to the mission statement, the vision statement, where we're going, the culture. And that's what we do at Culture Campus. We practice, or we focus on the culture, managing through the culture, where it's not me saying this. Hey, you're the one that said this. You're the one that adhered to these values. Is this our values? Yes. Okay. This is how we're going to do things. Okay. You tell me what I'm supposed to do. We've had 10 meetings or 5 meetings. Like, what's going on with the same? Like, it's like, okay, I probably don't belong here. You're right. And I've actually had a lot of those like, it's almost like an aha for them. It's like, yeah, I need to go in a different direction because I'm not made out to be here. Right. Because this is not where we're going. And so that's what I've always been, a big advocate for, is managing through the culture, because then what you start to do is you have other employees and other people like start to police themselves. Like, hey, that's not our standard. That's not our value. You're going against our values. Like, we need to, we all sign that. I even make vendors sign a value statement that these are the values I'm going to hold myself to, and this is how we're going to do business together. If you can't do business together because based off of values, then we're probably not meant to do business together. Yeah. And it was something that I really never had to worry about, but I set that standard from the beginning.
Wow. I love that. Guys, if you're running a team or a manager or owner, that is, you could architect your own simple structure there, but it's the process that then creates that culture. Right. And I think that's where people are always like, I have great culture. I'm like, no, he's defining a process that he implemented to create culture. Right. I ask you, write down 3 things. Great. He aligned it back to a value, trust. Right. Like, we have 4 core values: experience, innovation, unity, and contribution. So like in my head, had I just used your process yesterday, it would have been easier for me to be like, okay, let's go to contribution. Let's outline this. Because I had pulled up the job description from a year ago, and I'm like, here, and you know what I mean? And I tried to like kind of do that. I'm like, hey, what of these things have you done? Oh, like 5%. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just trying to have a level conversation, like reset kind of where we're going. Right. But I like the idea of like, hey, let's just like talk about the 4 core values. Innovation. What have you innovated? Nothing. Yeah, okay. Let's contribution. You've been doing great in this category, but we're hired for you know what I mean? Like, hey, I'm not trying to take away. I'm just saying, like, write down, so it's this element of like, I want to help you. You're a great person. You're a great contributor. Like, it's not that you don't have something to contribute. It's just what you were hired for and what you're contributing are just off. Let's have a realignment. Like, I love that. A cultural alignment conversation of, can we change job description to align, and can you change behavior to align? Right. Unity. Now you're being selfish. Like, this is a selfish structure. That's why I'm misaligned. Right. I don't have any selfish structures. I don't get paid like that. Like, you know what I mean? And then, so I could have just done exactly what you just said yesterday. I'm running through it in my head. I'm like, damn it. Yeah. No, and like, that's so good. It's so good.
Like, I like what we do is like, it's almost like there's a qualitative side of culture and a quantitative side of culture. And it's like, I'm making like, like it's just super simple, right? And then it's a collaboration. And if it like, it's almost their idea. It's almost like goes back to the Chris Voss type of negotiations, as you keep asking them questions and they almost like answer it for themselves. And so you have that, you know, that cultural realignment meeting where it's like, hey, that's the point of the meeting. And like, this is, you know, if you're good with that, I'm good with that. That's what this is all about. But I would challenge you too. Maybe you already did. I don't know. Is every time every time two or more people got together in our company, they were required to card check. So we showed our card, put it back, and then we said the mission statement by memory back and forth. And then we had 3 examples of our values because we live through the values. And so like one of them was trust. Like, hey, you know, give me an example of, you know, what we saw in trust. Oh yeah, hey, this person did this, I didn't even ask him, or, you know, this happened or that happened. Or one of them was experience, one of values. Oh, how have we given good experience? And so then you start having them talk about the values, right? Mm-hmm. All the time. Where, you know, if you have like, if I had a big meeting with say 50 people, we'd all card check and kind of joke and then put it back. And then we'd say I picked one person, say the mission statement, and then I'd say, okay, I need three examples of our values. Then you have people saying like, oh, I saw, you know, from so-and-so dealer, we were actually out of this inventory and they sent us down some trailers. Like that's, you know, thank you. Like that's a good experience. Or that's, you know, one of ours was family. So we acted like a family. So we start to talk about those values where you ingrain them so much into people that if they see someone going against that value, they're like, hey, that's not what we do.
I
right.
love
Like,
that.
so they all like, that's where talk about managing through the culture. It's so like good. Every single meeting that we started, like in all of my like schedule, it was always card check, you know, card check, mission statement, vision statement, and then, or we do mission statement and values. And it's like, we need to talk about it first, because that's how we need to start the meeting off, is talking about why we're even here.
Yeah.
How we even operate as a company. And then we can get through. And then we'd always ask, like, if we were doing something, we'd always say, does that go against our values? Oh, nope, okay. Or yeah, that does go against our values. Kind of, that's not giving a good experience, or that's not really creating trust. So that's going away. Okay, well, if it's not creating trust, can we communicate that to create that trust? Because maybe we'll have to change something, but then it's all about effective communication. Because I truly believe a lot of breakdown in culture is communication. So 100% is lack of communication, lack of transparency. Now, I know you're not going to tell them everything, but when people don't know something, or there's a lot of behind closed doors meetings going on, again, our bodies, our subconscious is built before we're 9 years old. A lot of time, like our bodies are made to go in worst case scenario. So if there's a bunch of backdoor meeting, like all kind of things, everybody that knows about is thinking worst case scenario, right? But so it's just clear communication. Like I always joke, like no one ever goes to marriage counseling for too good of communication. Like that's not even a thing, right? Most wars, issues, divorces, companies always goes down to communication.
Powerful.
Yeah.
We got to wrap, but guys, if you're listening to this, go follow Jason. This is like nuggets. So I have gotten so much value, and I love that you just started your life out as a carnivore, and how we have such a very similar upbringing. It's cool. It's fun to get to know you.
Sure.
On this,
Yeah.
so
No, appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for having me.
So guys, go get your tickets, go get the book, join our group, share this with somebody, like maybe share this with your boss. Like
right.
Maybe you're a rep and you're like, dude, my owner needed to hear this. Like, you know what I mean? Whatever that is. I'm sure there's a lot of value that you guys could see. So, all right. All the love.
Cool.
We'll see you
Appreciate
guys.
it. Thank you.
Peace out.